1320 Kings insider and the creator of the Kings Beat. What's happening, James?
I don't feel like I'm in the prime of my career, but I'll go with it. I feel a little bit more like Andrew Luck at this point.
No, you're still in the elite set. Many losing seasons ahead, James. You're in good shape.
Yeah, we're just getting there, right? I was thinking about that today. I can't remember how long ago it was that I had to cover a 25 win potential 27, 28 win team. It's been a long time. I mean, it's not like they won a lot more than that, but from like the George Karl era on, I think we got like 33 wins there. There was a bad season under Dave Yeager where they took a step back, but really, we've kind of seen 30 wins for a couple of years at least. Now we're back to the doldrums.
And we just got done talking about De'Aaron Fox and what he's had to endure, with his time being with the Kings, seeing all these first round picks go, guys that were drafted after him, really nobody being here but Davion Mitchell at this point. And he talked about stability and talent around him being two primary ways to make sure you get the best out of De'Aaron Fox. Do you see that on the horizon at all with this Kings franchise?
I just wrote about it earlier today, and like I don't want to be too harsh, but at some point someone has to say like the obvious, like all the celebration of the tank, to me is like you're literally celebrating another horrible team. This is another horrible season, and there is nothing that says for sure that this team will be better next year. Like you hope that it will be. You can think that Fox and Sabonis are now your pillars of the franchise, but at the same time, like nothing is for sure, and that's the problem that you have. I mean, when you look at a franchise that has been in the lottery for 16 straight seasons, one of those seasons they didn't draft because they had traded it in 2019. So we're literally looking at 14 out of the last 15 years they've drafted in the lottery, and really the only thing you have to show for it is De'Aaron Fox and maybe Davion Mitchell. We don't really know what he's going to be as a player. That's pretty brutal. We're talking about a team. Everyone is celebrating a top 5 pick, and I think they forget that while it's not the same people at the helm, this is a franchise that drafted it. We just go like somewhat in order: Jimmer, Thomas Robinson, Ben McLemore, Nick Stauskas, Willie Cauley-Stein, Yorgos Papagiannis. I mean, like, have I hit yet?
You got a Scala BCR in there, a Justin Jackson,
Malachi Richardson, Harry Giles. You just keep rattling them off, and this is a team that's missed on their draft picks like 90% of the time.
We all politely ignored the most egregious one. Everybody knows. We don't have to point it out.
Oh, the Marvin, yeah.
And there goes our politeness.
Yeah. Well, look. I mean, that's my point. Like, look.
Yeah, it's bad.
I get it. Like the Kings they're one of the few teams with cap space this summer. Not only that, but they have upwards of $40 million in expiring contracts. They have all of their first-round picks. They've got 2 players that you think you can build around. There should be some positivity. But at the same time, there's a very good chance that Davion Mitchell is looking at his 3rd head coach before he enters his 2nd season.
Jeez, come on.
Like, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about so much instability that, like, just get it right. Like, whatever you have to do, just make the right decisions, settle in, stick with a plan, figure it out. Like it's that the tank season, to me, the tank season is just like a really sad admission that you're just horrible again. And so I get it, but at this, I would prefer that we saw things building and that you were looking at good things, because I'll be honest with you guys. I do not think that we will see De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis again this season. Mm-hmm. I don't have that like 100%, but it's more like really close to 100%. It would only be if for some reason they rattled off like 6 wins in a row, and New Orleans lost like 6 in a row, and all of a sudden they're right back in it again for some reason. That would be, I think, the only way that we see De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis again.
That's not happening. It's just not. This team has. When was the last 6 in a row? When was the last time? Did this team win 4 in a row this year?
No.
Like
They've
I
won
don't
3 in a
know.
row one time this year. Wilsey talked about it earlier. They won 2 in a row only 6 times this year. It's an 80
incredible
schedule.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
You mentioned cap space and money and all of that. And I know this isn't solely the gist of why you brought that up, but have you looked at the free agent class this year?
It's not great.
Oh no, it's not.
It's not great, Bob.
It's it's not, and it's just there's just even when you stretch the bounds of your imagination, it's like, yeah, this doesn't work. It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
money's got to come into play. Like you got to use that money. You know what I mean by this, but like to acquire like a Russell Westbrook contract, like a John Wall contract, it has to, like, that's what the money ultimately has to be used for, because I don't know where else it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you would hope that you could work out a deal where you go out and get a higher tier player. You give up some expiring contracts, but maybe not as much as you're taking back. You bring in a $25 million player, send out $18 million in salary cap space in expiring contracts, and so then you're absorbing like $7 million. I think there are ways that this team can get much better, but it's going to take some luck, and it's going to take like 2 to tango. Like, that's what people forget. You don't just like start making a list of the players that you want the Kings to trade for. That's not the way it works. Like, A, those players have to be available. B, the Kings have to have something that other team wants. And C, there can't be another team that has more to offer than you. And so those are all issues that this team is going to have to look at this summer. And I think, minor tweaks can, I think, sort of help this team as long as they're the right players. But they're not going to get you a 6 seed or a 5 seed. You need another big, huge player like a Sabonis, or either that or like the Harrison Barnes level of player. And then on top of that, you need like 1 or 2 shooters. And, and if you go young in the draft and you bring in that player, somehow you luck out and you're in the top 2 and you bring in that player, you have to understand that that's going to take a little while still. And so you're going to have to like bring in other solid players to sort of piece this thing together.
You mentioned about how they have about $40 million or so in like expiring and trade assets between Holmes, Barnes, and all this other stuff. Do they have a lot of money just under the cap to go get a free agent if they wanted to, sign, I don't know, a guy that a Malik Monk or something like that who might be making like $10 million a year? Do they have that type of money? Because I've heard conflicting reports about what they'll have under the salary cap.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have plenty of money. And when it comes to a guy like Malik Monk, Malik's not getting, I don't think he's getting 10. I don't even think he's getting close to that. I think he's probably getting a 2-year, $10 million deal, not a 2-year, $20 million deal. I think he's getting more of the biannual exception that we saw Richaun Holmes get a couple of years ago. He's playing on a league minimum deal right now. And while he's put up some numbers, like his defensive numbers aren't great, and he's on a team that's just absolutely a train wreck, and they need him to shoot more, and it hasn't worked out. I like Monk, but at the same time, what does that mean for Dante DiVincenzo or Terrence Davis or, Justin Holiday? I mean, is Monk an upgrade? And I don't think we know that. I think you like him because he's a shooter and he spaces the floor and all that stuff. But yeah, they're going to have enough money to go out and do some things. Dante DiVincenzo has a qualifying offer of like $6.3 million. And so you at least have like the space in between what his qualifying offer is and what he will make that you can spend like before you actually sign that deal. If you do get it, I think there are teams out there that are going to look at him with a mid-level exception, like that $10 million range. And I mean, if I'm the Kings, I'm trying to figure out if that makes sense or not. This is some advanced roster construction building that they're going to have to figure out. And I just don't know, how much can you change a team in one off season? How much can you change a team from the trade deadline to the start of the next season? And we're already talking about, like 6 or 7 pieces that have changed. And I think what of the Monty McNair era, I think there's only Rashawn Holmes, De'Aaron Fox, and Harrison Barnes left, right?
Mhm.
And Holmes isn't included in that $40 million of expiring contracts. Holmes is another piece that I think is on the side that you can go and chase a player like him of his level, but just at a different position that makes more sense for you.
Mm-hmm. Is Rashawn away? Like,
Yeah,
is he with the team or is he like away? Away.
no, I don't think he's with the team. No, I think
Okay.
he's away.
I,
Yeah.
I assumed that, but wasn't sure.
Yeah, and on that note, like Jeremy Lamb missed like 1 or 2 games for personal reasons last week. This is one of those situations where you kind of got a wink, wink, nod, nod. Like it was a good personal reason, and everything is good, but he did good by stepping away, and like people shouldn't question why Jeremy Lamb left. It's one of those situations where we like another situation that we just went through with the Kings. So something's in the water around Sacramento, or around the players that they traded for. So yeah, that was a good step away personal reason.
Okay. I'll read between the lines with that one. Sacramento's a great place to raise a family. I do whatever you want to with that. Like I don't know. I don't think that's why Rashawn's stepping away, though, is it?
No, I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think
We're
Rashawn.
tying all this together just to make sure we.
No, Rashawn has he needs a hard reset and he needs a new place to play. But I also think he needs to clear his head. He's got some personal issues he needs to deal with that I think are outside of the game of basketball. He's a really good guy, and again, we've talked about it. He's the heart and soul of this team, or he was until this season hit, and he just kind of like fell by the wayside. So yeah, really, really difficult situation to kind of trudge through. But sometimes you got to step away.
And with all that said, perhaps the most, we talked about free agents and trades and upgrading roster positions, all this. Monty McNair's first order of business will be, April 10th, 11th, whatever that day is, and he'll have to decide what the status is of that coaching position. And you talk about things that you can't get wrong. That's one of the biggest things that he cannot afford to get wrong. That ultimately, in my opinion, James, he blows that. That marks the end. More than any trades, roster, all of that stuff. He messes up the coaching hire or retention of the coaching staff again. That's the end of Monty McNair.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I said it at the time. Like, you made a franchise-altering move, and while it hasn't worked out for the tail end of this season, last 25, 30 games of this season, it's still a franchise-altering move. And so I'm willing to give McNair another year and a half, 2 years to like see what he's got, because that was a big move. And you went out and got a 2-time All-Star that's 25 years old. And so I definitely think that at the end of the day, he should have the opportunity to hire his own coach this summer. Whether that's going to happen or not is always a question mark in Sacramento. Whether there will be some meddlesome, situations, whether someone will have a voice in the room that shouldn't have a voice in the room, that pushes some agenda that shouldn't be happening. Like, those are things that you should be concerned about again. And so what I'm hoping is that we get a true coaching search, and Monty McNair gets the guy that he wants, that he thinks will carry this franchise forward. And like, you can listen to a lot of different people, but at the end of the day, Monty McNair needs someone that he feels like he can have a partnership with moving forward, that he will go out and find the pieces for that coach, and that coach will implement the game plan and the ideas that they have collectively built as a group. And that's how you build the franchise the right way. You find the right guy, and you kind of put your head to the grindstone and stick with the path and see how it goes.
Well, we'll come back and we'll talk Kings, Pacers. We'll lead you right into that game. It's the battle for lottery balls.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that with our Kings insider, James Ham, when we return here on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Clear.
Mark just asked, which players make up the $40 million in expiring contracts? Harrison Barnes is $18.3 million, $6.3 for Justin Holiday, $4 million for Alex Len, 4.3 for Mo Harkless, $4 million for Terrence Davis, 2.6 million for Trey Lyles.
Those are, oh yeah, jeez, goodness gracious.
And I mean, Shemezi Metu, you have a team option for.
Kings for life.
Yeah, Rob, good question. Am I sticking with Mahomes as my fantasy quarterback? I don't know.
No, yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know because I've kept Mahomes and Tyreek Hill for the last couple of years because we get a 2-point bonus for hookups, and so that usually equates to like another 30 points or another 5 touchdowns between the two.
Maybe that's a better question. Are you keeping Tyreek Hill?
No way! Come on, like who's gonna throw to him?
Shots at Tua.
Wow.
Come on.
Shots at Tua.
Yeah.
Hey,
Ruined the
guys,
day.
when you James reminded me when he just reeled off like where the money's coming from. Have you guys ever like looked at a box score and like been like, how the hell does that add up to that? Like, for instance, I was looking at it for the Suns the other day, and they scored 127. And obviously, I'm not saying the math doesn't check out, but I'm just looking visually at the box score. And it's like, okay,
how did that get to 127?
31, 14, 21. How are they at 127? That doesn't make any sense. And that's what that reminded me of when he talked about $40 million and you started with like Barnes is 18, and then it was like 4 here, 4 there, 4 here, 4 there, and it adds up to 40. But if you look at it, you may not feel like it looks like $40 million.
Yeah, because you look at Harkless, Lynn, and Terrence Davis right there. That's 12. So you add that, it's a little over 12. If you add that with Harrison Barnes, you're right at like 31 million, and then 6.3 is 37.3, and then I got Trey Lyles right at 2.6.
Sacramento shooting just over 41%
right at
from the floor.
39 point something million. Does that all make sense?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But I am with you. And you know what's funny? The NBA.com's box score has been wrong all season long with their rebounds. So
Really?
it's their rebound totals. So their offensive and defensive rebounds don't match. Like offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, if you take those two totals, say one has 13 and one has 39 and should be 52, it's usually like 65. You're like, what?
Oh,
like
man.
every single game.
That's terrible. I never noticed. That's a damn shame. I download the game book though. That's what I download.
Yeah,
that's
the game book's right. And Cody, you're saying Ham is talking about expiring contracts next season, not this off season. Yes, I am.
Right.
I am exactly
talking about headed into next year.
Yeah, like Jeremy Lamb has a $11.3 million expiring contract for this that ends on June 31st. I mean June 30th. So July 1st, he's an unrestricted free agent at $11.3 million. So yeah, that's different.
Oh man.
Yes, I agree. Tyreek Hill is going to decline in Miami. He should be fun, but like Mahomes is just a different dude. I don't like how he plays when they take Tyreek Hill over the top, off the table, when they just take him away. I think Mahomes just goes like sideways, and it's not good. So what are you going to do without him? I don't know how that's going to work out.
I agree.
And it feels like people are already looking at Kansas City a little funny. So now with Tyreek Hill gone, I think people are anxious, like, because Patrick Mahomes was built up so quick. I think they're ready for his downfall.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I think they're ready for him to collapse because they built him up so big.
Yeah.
Move on to someone else.
And
Joe
because of
Burrow.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that's probably part of it too. Coming back, guys. Odyssey app's a great way to listen to the show. It's D'Lo and KC, brought to you by McQueen and the Violet Fog, the smoothest gin in the world, handcrafted in Brazil. We're here with our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, who hosts the virtual happy hour infectious disease control edition. Did I get that right? Nailed it?
It's Off the Record with the Kings Beat, virtual happy hour, part 4, infectious disease control with Scott Moak.
You gotta love it.
It's like that episode of The Office where paper company where he's given the headlines and it's like 20 word. It's a 20-word headline. It's that one. I couldn't remember it or I would have recited it. So I blew the whole joke right there. Damn
Yeah,
right.
that's tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Scott Moak is hilarious. He's got such a great personality. I think people are going to love.
The only bad thing
out.
about Scott Moak is the high school he went to.
Yeah, what are you, Kennedy?
Yeah, it's not a good look.
I think his dad was a baseball coach too.
Yeah, not a good look. Kennedy Cougars, not a good look.
Okay.
Go Lions.
It's funny if you watch
got beef.
if you watch Scott throw balls out to the crowd, you can see he was a full-fledged baseball player. I think he can probably throw the little mini balls into the upper deck. Like he's got a gun.
That's good stuff. You can only be a part of it, though, if you're a premium subscriber over on the Kings Beat. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions tomorrow about tonight's game. Great scheduling on James Ham's part, as it's the Sacramento Kings versus the Indiana Pacers. Of course, there's no De'Aaron Fox. There is no Domantas Sabonis, but we did learn Tyrese Halliburton is going to play. And, of course, Buddy Hield doesn't miss games. James, Kenny and I had the realization that probably nothing good is going to come out of tonight's game. Kings fans are probably going to find a reason to be upset either way. Like if the Kings win, that's a bad thing. If Tyrese doesn't play well and the Kings win, it's because the Pacers were tanking. If the Pacers win and Tyrese plays well, it's because the Kings are stupid and they traded him away. So it's going to be a rough night on social media tonight.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the one thing I think I pointed out last time is that Buddy Hield has never played well in a big game ever. And this for Buddy Hield is a big game. He's never, I mean, that dude just flat out like doesn't know what a big game means. He just checks out. So I'm intrigued to see what happens here. Will Buddy Hield actually step up and torch the Kings? And I would love to tell you that that's probably, that should happen, but every single time the Kings went into a game, if you're going into the bubble and you're trying to win that first game against San Antonio, or, you got a game last year against San Antonio, it's just like, man, where in the world did he just go? And so I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about that. And I'm also like, Harrison Barnes is the last man standing. Like what does Harrison Barnes do here? Like, hey man, I got a big toe that's swollen. Can someone like put me out for the last 9 games? Like I feel bad for the guy. He's gonna go out there and it's gonna, two hands tied behind his back.
Someone's got to play. That's what we were talking about. This is what we were talking about. Davion. Like Davion has a chance to really. I don't know if shine is the right word, but he has a chance to build some momentum that could hopefully carry over into next year because there's no one who's going to play instead of him. Like he's going to run the team for the next 9 games.
Yeah, this is huge. It reminds me of the last full season of Michael Malone when Pete D'Alessandro, Michael Malone went to Pete and said, "Hey, can you possibly sign a point guard because I had Isaiah Thomas and he got hurt and all I got left is a second round rookie in Ray McCallum and I have to play him like between 46 and 48 minutes a night." And Pete D'Alessandro responded by signing Royce White. Yeah. And so like just left him high and dry with no point guard to finish the season. So at this point, like, again, we talked about should Dante DiVincenzo start alongside De'Aaron Fox. Well, that conversation's over now because De'Aaron Fox isn't there. And last time I checked, you don't have another backup point guard. So I think Dante DiVincenzo needs to come off the bench to support Davion when he steps off. And so I don't know. There's another way around it. Like DiVincenzo is playing for a contract. He needs to show that he's healthy and can continue to build and find his rhythm and stuff like that. But I really do think this is all Davion Mitchell's show. And I think that's the one silver lining to this, right? Because a point guard needs time actually running a team. And he was not going to get that time with Fox here. He certainly wasn't going to get that time with Fox and Halliburton. He's always playing off the ball. And then any time that he wasn't playing off the ball, it almost felt like he was looking for his own scoring. So now it's like, okay, what do you got? What can you do? Can you be the guy who on occasion can go 28-9? Can you build off of that? Can you do something where maybe you get 12 assists? Maybe you string together a couple of 20-point games. I think this is a good learning experience for him, and it might be a good learning experience for Neemias Queta, although Alvin Gentry just said that they're going to look at Alex Len a little bit here too, which to me is very strange. I want to see Queta and Damian Jones split those minutes right down the middle, 24-24. Chimezie Metu will get some burn. Josh Jackson might get some burn. That's what time of the year it is.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Nothing screams Sacramento in March like meaningless basketball in random 86-degree weather.
It's our time of year.
Sacramento.
It's our time of year. You know what? You mentioned Davion, and I kind of had the same feelings. Damian asked me this yesterday, and I was like, there's not minutes, and I can see from anybody in these last 19 games. But I thought about Davion, and we saw him the other night against Phoenix. Great game, 28 points. Showed he could do that, given that type of opportunity and those minutes and those shot attempts. And I'm not saying 28 points a game in the final 9-10 games, but if he can, score consistently 16, 17, 18 points a game, not saying that you can bank on that coming back because the roles and everything will change when Fox is back and at the start of the year, but at least you see that it's in him. At least you see that, hey, he can do this on a consistent basis. He just maybe needs a consistent amount of shots a night or a consistent amount of minutes or something like that. And I want to see if he can do that. I think he can. I'm not going to write him off if he can't. I'm not going to say he's the next coming if he can, but I want to see what he looks like with a more consistent role, more minutes, and more freedom in the offense. So I can know, hey, at the very least, he has this in him if, you need to go to that next year or just his role coming off the bench.
Well, and to sort of add on to that, I mean, we get to see like a perfect scenario on Sunday play out. Like, not only did he have to be the guy, but I mean, he's the guy who scores a game-tying bucket, like in the final seconds and in overtime. And, of course, they lose that game. But at the same time, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those moments where he has to perform for the final 8 minutes of a fourth quarter and then 5 minutes overtime. And he's got to stay out there on the court. He's got to bring defensive intensity while scoring on the offensive end. Those are meaningful buckets he's scoring. They're meaningful minutes that he's playing. And so that's why I'm kind of hoping that what we don't see is that the Kings just get blown out by 25 every night. Because then if Davion's scoring like 18 a night, like really, who cares? Somebody has to score on a bad team. And that's what this team is. But now they're a bad team without like their nuts and bolts. So like this is an opportunity for him to get comfortable, start to show that he's ready to take on a bigger role next season. And really, it's about learning stuff. It's about learning a whole lot of stuff.
You don't think Davion and Dante could start together? Like if Davion and Dante started, Justin Holiday first off the bench, Davion scoots over. I don't know why I want to see Davion, or excuse me, I don't know why I want to see Dante as a starter so bad, but
yeah, I mean,
I know it's not the same as Dante and De'Aaron, but
yeah, I mean, I think so. I would like to see that because they're going to play together a lot if they're together next year. So sure, I could see that as well. But at the same time, like you're going to have to stagger a bunch of stuff. You're going to have to, stagger minutes for both of them because you don't have another true point guard on the roster. So, and we do have a report right now. I don't have time.
I noticed you. Yeah, I got that too. I noticed you looking at your phone. I don't think it's the type of report we want to.
Yeah, we're not going to dive into that. Yeah, without vetting,
being positive of what we're talking about here. So, there is something involving Richaun Holmes written in the Sacramento Bee. It's not pretty. But again, it's a lengthy article. That's probably not. It's not one of the things that you read in a 240 character tweet and feel like, oh yeah, let's read this on the air. No, it's a bad look. It's out there. We'll be responsible here and try to look this over tonight.
We don't need to be first.
In James, I'll connect with James later on this evening and figure out like kind of what this is all about. But if you need to see it, it's out there.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look that one up. We're gonna have to do a lot more reporting on that, a ton.
And not a knock on the Sacramento Bee people at all. Just that's a touchy one that yeah. In any event, where were we?
Yeah.
Well,
honestly, I saw it pop up in the chat house and was like, okay, we need to look at this. And it's like, well, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
So what do you think this is often discussed amongst fan bases, of course, but do they want to win tonight? Like, cause it's not like it's not like they're playing the Bucks or something, or even the Rockets on the other end of the spectrum. We determined it's the Blazers, the Pacers, and the Kings, all kind of in that mix right there for 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, I think the question is, who is they? Like, you said,
I don't know. I want you to answer that question too.
Who's the they you're referring to?
The players want to win. Alvin wants to win.
Yes.
Does anybody else want to win?
I'm gonna say no. Okay. No. And I mean that plays into like the narrative. That's what I wrote earlier today. It's this mentality that this franchise has. Like, and that's, I mean, I get it. Like, you have to start playing at some point in the season, you start playing for draft picks as opposed to the play-in tournament. That's for sure. But I don't know. I just hate giving up. I just hate watching a team give up time and time again. This last 9 games, you have 2 completely diametrically opposed situations here. You can either play for De'Aaron Fox is officially out. That's what just hit my phone. Okay. You can play for the experience, trying to build a winning culture, all those things, trying to build chemistry between 2 big-time players in De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. But I think the harsh reality is that when Fox hurt his hand, that was like the moment where you went, let's pull everyone back. If you're the franchise, then when you watch Sabonis go down on the baseline, it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with this season. And that's what I think we're at. We're at that point where, they have to do what's best for themselves. Like if Sabonis needed, a meniscus, if he had a meniscus tear or he did something there, he did cartilage damage or something, like he could be out 4 to 6 months. He could have torn his ACL. He could be out for a year, and then where are you at? And so I think when you look at it, like again with Fox's hand, there's something going on with Fox's hand, and it's not just like a bruise. There's something going on in there, and they know what's going on. They're not like being 100%. Like, could he play if this was like a do or die game? Maybe. Could he pass with his right hand or dribble with his right hand? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that like he wouldn't try to get it gritted out and play. I just don't see there's any way that we're going to see him finish his season.
You know who we will see?
Hold on. I got you.
Everything's changed in New York, and Kyrie is back.
By God, that's Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving is back in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is in fact in the house, as is Kyrie. The mandates and all of that stuff in New York are about to change, and that's going to allow not just Kyrie Irving to play in Brooklyn. It's going to allow Aaron Judge apparently to play for the New York Yankees.
And look, if I was being a cynic, this is New York City. Oh, they wasn't flying with no Yankees not playing.
Yeah, right.
Now,
Right.
Brooklyn Nets, okay, whatever. The Yankees? Oh, no. All the Yankees need to be on the field, period.
Yeah, that's the moment where you're like, oh no, that's not going to fly.
Look, guys, this Kyrie Irving thing, that's one thing. But we're talking about the very fabric of the city here. We've got to.
The Brooklyn Nets? We're talking about the Brooklyn Nets?
Brooklyn
Like-
has a team.
Oh, no. Oh, but pinstripes? Yeah.
Okay,
mask. Yeah, the Band-Aid is over.
Around with the Yanks, all right? We're not messing around with the Yanks.
Nobody was checking for the Mets. It was all about what was going on with the New York Yankees. So there's some news right there that affects the NBA playoffs, which will begin in just a month or so. Go ahead, Casey.
This reminds me, I just wanted to ask both of you guys before we got back into the Kings. I was watching Kyrie Irving highlights last night. Watching a lot of highlights last night. Reese wants to watch all this stuff. And I feel like Kyrie plays and does things on the court that everybody thinks they could do if they were like if you're playing in your room, you're playing Nerf. Remember how, for instance, people thought if I was like 7 feet, 275, I'd be like Shaq. Like I'd get on, they get the little mini hoop down there and I'm just dunking all. Everybody thought they could be Shaq. It was like everybody that dribbles a ball or like has any confidence in basketball thinks like, I can just do what Kyrie does. But Kyrie actually does it. Like Kyrie actually shifts these people when he's guarding them, makes them fall, does all these spin moves. It's a joy to watch. He reminds me a little bit, not his game, but just how I marvel at Jason Williams and what he was able to do in the NBA. Like this wasn't 24-hour fitness the way Jason Williams was going behind the back and shaking people and doing all this stuff. This was the National Basketball Association. And for him to do and toy with players the way he did when he was coming up still boggles my mind. That's how I feel about Kyrie sometimes.
Yeah, who was Skip to my Lou?
Rafer Alston.
Okay, so Rafer Alston could never do what he did on the playground in an NBA game.
That's a great point.
So that's where I think you're so spot on with Jason Williams. Like Jason Williams was incredible. He did that at real speed. And that's the same thing with Kyrie. Like almost every NBA player will tell you that Kyrie is the best dribbler in the league. Like I don't even think most people think it's close. And there are times where like you watch a guy like Fox and he does some of the Kyrie stuff, but he does it at like some crazy. He does it in like speed, with the speed button held down for sure. But Kyrie, the way he's able to manipulate a situation while like almost in a standstill position and people are right next to him and create space for himself and for others is just crazy. Yeah, he is fun to watch. It's just too bad that he makes it about a lot of other things. And that, again, I'll repeat that. He makes it about that. Like anyone can believe the world is flat. You can have that belief all you want. The fact that everyone knows it is because you're out there spouting some crazy nonsense. The same thing, when it comes to his mask mandate, his vaccine stuff, like he still hasn't been able to give you like an honest answer as to what he's doing. He just keeps going, well, why? It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you should do the research and figure out that number one, the earth is round. But secondly, that people who die in the hospital right now still like 90-something% of them are unvaccinated. And that's why. So, it's just kind of weird. Like I love watching him play though.
Kyrie's a weird dude. Like that's just the simplest way to put it. Like Kenny, but this was the most perfect way to explain Kyrie Irving. I thought Kenny did it earlier this year. Is if everyone was not getting vaccinated, Kyrie would have been the first one. Like, come on, guys, let's get vaccinated. This is the way to go. This is what I'm doing.
Contrarian.
This is what I want.
The ultimate contrarian.
He just wants to do something different than what everybody else is doing. He's unique. He's
he's
unique
back.
but he is a bad dude. And I feel like we got some glimpses of that over the course of the last couple of weeks. Just a couple of reminders like, yeah, I'm a bad dude. I'm going to drop 50 tonight. I'm going to drop 60 a week later. And I'm going to put y'all on notice that Brooklyn, we're preparing for the playoffs here, with or without Ben Simmons. And it definitely feels like it's without Ben Simmons. But still, that roster is better. I still think that lineup is better. I still think that the overall Brooklyn Nets are better without James Harden, with that group of guys that they got there. Yeah. James, what do you want to see the next 9 games? Not from Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets, but from the Sacramento Kings. Let's operate, by the way, under the belief that you are correct, and Fox is out, and the 6-game win streak doesn't come, and Sabonis doesn't return. Let's operate under the assumption that those two are out for the next 9 games.
I want to see Davion, and I want to see nonstop Davion and nonstop Neemias Queta. Like, even like I like Damian Jones, but at the same time, Damian Jones is not under contract with the Kings next year, and he's not a restricted free agent. There's, so like Damian Jones, the fact is he might not be here next year. So give me Queta. There's no reason not to play him. I know he's green, and I know that he needs work, but Damian Jones like got some minutes on championship Golden State Warriors teams. Like, at some point, you got to give a dude some opportunity to grow at the NBA level, learn the speed, learn the strength of the players, learn how to play pick and roll. Like, because these guys, especially like Indiana, just runs pick and roll after pick and roll at you with all these super athletic young bigs, with Ty like setting them up and doing all that stuff. So yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot to that's going to unfold here in the last couple of games of the season, where you can actually learn some things about some people. And also, you're right about the pairing. Maybe I do want to see more DiVincenzo with Mitchell. I don't really like whether I see more Josh Jackson or not. I don't really care, to be honest with you, because every time I do watch him, he just looks like some dude who wants to put up 10 points so he can say he scored in double figures. Like, there is no flow to him at all. It's just like, go get his own. And to me, that's not what you should be focusing on here. It should be like growth and Chimezie Metu playing substantial minutes and mixing and matching. But really, it's all about Davion and Neemias for me.
I was going to ask you about Josh Jackson because I'm on the other side. I want to see Josh Jackson. Why not? Why not? You have a hole at that particular position. We just laid out everything that's in front of them this off season. You might not be able to fill all those slots with free agency or trades or anything else like that. If you have a guy that you can get basically a free look at in Josh Jackson right now, why not? Like, I understand what you're saying, where he gets in there and the shots are going up, but I don't know. Alvin, have a talk with him. Hey, next 9-10 games, we want to see everything. You're going to get an opportunity to play. You don't have to be in a rush to throw up shots so you can get points. We want to see if you can play in a structured situation. I don't even know if the Kings are in a structured situation themselves, but I want to see Josh Jackson. I wanted to see him maybe a few games ago just to get a good look at him, but I'd want to see more of him.
I'll tell you why I don't. And it's because we talked about this the other day. Like, once a player learns who they are in the league, then they can settle into a role in their niche, and they can become really successful. They can try to become a star in their role, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's still not there. And he's 25. And it's like, look, man, like, teams aren't going to just hand you the ball and say, go get us 20 points, and you're going to play 35 minutes every night. That's not going to happen. So what is his role? And I keep looking at him, and unfortunately, he looks really, really similar to Dante Green. Like to me, he's closer to playing in the big three than he is getting another NBA contract. And it's because he refuses to accept that if you're not a star in the league, you have to find a role. And that's why, we got to kind of figure the whole thing out with him. I don't really, really care whether he gets minutes or not, because I just, again, Damian Jones is filling a role. We're looking to see Davion expand his role, but we know what his role is. All of these guys, can they get better at doing what they do? and I still don't know what he does. And that's on him, you know? You need to come back and show somebody that, look, I can be a 3-and-D guy. I can lock somebody down, I can stay in front of them, and I can shoot the three. And I'll stand here in the corner and I'll do that. And then if there's a potential for me to show something else that I can do, maybe every once in a while in a game I'll get a breakaway and I can go do a 360 dunk or something. Maybe there's a way that he plays off of Domantas Sabonis and you start seeing a two-man game. But the first thing he has to do is prove that he belongs. And it's not just like, hey, you're a really, really good athlete that, you know, is running out here and thinking you're going to keep making millions of dollars. Because I'll tell you, Derek Williams was an incredible athlete, and he hasn't played in the league in a long time. I think he was 24 when he was out of the league, 24, 25. And, I mean, that's why he got called the Coke machine. He got called the Coke machine because George Karl looks at the box score and says, you know, even a Coke machine could get more than one rebound in 32 minutes of play. And he was talking about Derek Williams. Like, at what point, Derek Williams never showed that who he could be. And all he kept trying to do is show, like, some mystical thing that, like, someone had dreamed up that they could be. And it's like, look, at some point, you got to be real. You got to be a player. And if you're not, then you're just going to bounce around from one team to the next. And, you know, personality issues and stuff like that, too, as well. So, not to bash on the guy, but, like, I would rather see a two-way contract handed to somebody than some guy come in and play a role and show me that, you know, that they can hoop and maybe pick up a little bit of extra cash and reward a guy like Emmanuel Terry or Matt Coleman or someone like that. Just like, look, okay, I get it. You need to be here and show us that you can actually follow directions, do some of the things, but also you're part of our system. We want to reward you with some cash for coming up and playing with the big boys.
James, we got a 4:00 start. Do you want to dip out a little early and follow up on some of the stuff that's out there, or are you good to keep going?
No, I'm good to keep going.
Okay. I just wanted to
yeah,
make sure.
I'll hang out with you guys because this is going to be a lot more than making a couple of texts.
Okay.
You know?
I just wanted to make sure you are a reporter first, so I want to make sure you were able to do that stuff. You mentioned a two-way deal. Is there a chance that happens, that the Kings, because the Kings, they're one of only a couple of teams, right, that have a two-way spot available? Is there a chance they utilize that over the course of the next 9 games?
I'm really surprised they didn't. They didn't before. You know, I think a couple of years ago we saw it right at the end of March, where they upgraded. They signed Damian Jones for the rest of the season. They upgraded Chimezie Metu from a two-way and gave him a 2-year contract last year. You know, sort of we saw that, and they gave Luke King the 2-way contract. So I think that there is a point where you got to actually do some of this stuff. You know, you got to bring in guys, but we're down to 9 games. Unless again you're bringing in a point guard, and it looks like Bobby Jackson's crew is fighting for a playoff spot. You know, like they brought in like a bunch of like veteran guys. Like they've got Sheldon Mack. They've got they got someone else too.
Bringing in some ringers into the G League.
Yeah, they're bringing in some, like literally they are bringing in some ringers.
Quinn Cook is another one.
Yeah, Quinn Cook. That's the other one. Yeah, and so you're
Bobby
like, hey,
down there sacking days.
yeah, and I think they just improved like 15 and 13 or something like that on the season. They're fighting for a playoff spot. Like, I get that, but there are guys within your own organization that you need to throw them a bone. Because just so people know, like a average G leaguer, I think they might be up to like $70K a year, right? But it's only for like a really short stint. And then if you get a call up, you're talking about, you get I think it's 1/130 of a G League contract. I mean, of a minimum contract. Well, a minimum contract in the NBA is like $940,000. So you're talking about a ton of money that they can collect over, again, like a 10-game stretch. And, you know, why not reward someone in your down in your system for coming on board, and maybe you get them to stick around next year, and maybe you do develop somebody that comes along and is a better player, and you invite them to camp. You got them in your system all summer long, and they're working out with your guys. And next thing you know, maybe you do have something where I think they tried that with Liu King. It didn't really work out, but just because that one didn't work out, you keep going. You keep doing that again and again and again every year, in my opinion.
To your knowledge, is there anybody down there that, has opened some eyes, or, I think it was with you the other day, we talked a little bit about Matt Coleman possibly coming up, but I see, I haven't watched a whole lot of Stockton Kings, but I see the highlights and it sounds like they're, winning some games. I would think there should be somebody in there that you would say, hey, let's give them a look. But I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody down there that gets that type of vibe.
What I would do is I would be looking for the best 3-and-D 6'7", 6'8" wing that's in the G League. And it's not hard to look for that. Like you can just go through and look at their metrics and everything else and say, hey, who down there has some skill that I could bring up? And so I don't know what they're going to do. At this point, it seems like they're not going to do anything, which I think is strange as well, because you had, like, they cut Liu King like 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? Like, why didn't you could have done this a couple of times. You could have brought in 1 or 2 two-way players, and then when you cut them, you got to pay them the two-way salary, but it's a prorated version of the two-way salary just for the rest of this year. We're talking about pennies on the dollar. So, why not? Why not give yourself a little bit more look at some of these guys? Yeah.
We all see the same thing at the same time and just take a dramatic pause. Don't mind us, man. It's the it's just the nature of breaking news. But Richaun Holmes is tweeting as we speak. Again, for those who are just tuning in, there is a report regarding why Richaun Holmes is missing the rest of the season. We're gonna, with all due respect to the Sacramento Bee, we're going to let our ESPN 1320 Kings reporter do some work on that and follow up on that story out there. We've got the game of the century for lottery balls tonight. This game had a completely different vibe, like even as much as 2 weeks ago. Like, how different do you think this game would be? Because we know Tyrese is playing. We know Buddy is playing. Do you think there'd be this is the stupidest thing I've said today. Do you think there'd be a big game feel if Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox were healthy and a go tonight headed into Indiana?
I think it would at least been a lot of fun. That's like, you want to go out there, and I think Fox would like to prove the naysayers wrong. Yeah. I think if Sabonis would have played, it could have played in this if he hadn't got injured. I think that there's a possibility we would have seen Fox. I think it would have been a blast to watch. Like, hey, everyone wants to say that one team won and one team lost. How about we go put it out there on the court? That's fine. Yeah. And then, completely kill yourself in the draft lottery. I mean, it's very simple.
Definitely would have won. The Kings would have beat the brakes off the Pacers.
Yeah. So we talked about it. We've talked about this a couple of times. So if you're the number 5 seed, number one, you can get the 5th seed. Where if you're the number 6 seed, you cannot get the 5th seed if in the draft lottery, right? Because there's no way if you move
run that back again.
If you're the 5th seed going into the draft lottery, you can get picks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you're the 6th seed, there is no conceivable way for you to get the 5th seed, because the top 4 picks are chosen at random, and then it goes in order of the next teams, right? So if the 8 moves up to number 1, and then it goes in order 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then you drop down a spot, but there's no way for you to move up to the 5th spot if you're the 6th seed.
The 1 would probably be the 5th spot. The team that we thought was the 1.
Yes. So if 4 teams move up that are behind the 1 seed, the 1 is now the 5th spot. Got me? There is actually no way for a team in the 6th spot to move up to the 5th spot. And the same goes for the 8th spot, the 9th spot, everyone else. No one can get the 5th spot except for the number 5 team or one of the teams and one of the top 4 teams sliding back.
Right.
Okay, so again, we'll just bust through this really quick. If you're the 5th spot, you have a 10.5% chance of the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you have a 42% chance of moving up. If you're the 5th spot, check this out. You only have a 2% chance of the number 5 pick. You have a higher percentage of dropping back to number 6 and number 7 than you do of being the 5th. But you have a higher % chance of being a top 4 pick than you do of being number 5, number 6, or number 7 individually. Yeah. So, and Sacktown Tony's right. Tankathon has a great graphic for this. But if you are the 5th spot, we're talking about a 42% chance of moving into the top 4. If you're the 6th spot, we're talking about 37.2%. So basically a 5% difference, which isn't that substantial, but it's still 5%. And then you open yourself up to have that 5th spot as well.
Go Kings.
Okay. I'm gonna go pour a glass of McQueen
Abacus
and take some aspirin because that was far too many numbers for me to handle. So this last hour was just too much for me. So and James just put an exclamation point on all of it. So we're just gonna leave.